Hello, dear friends. Welcome to English Story Sphere. This is not just the story of Petra, the forgotten kingdom of rock. This is the story of what happened. What you build with belief and pain refuses to disappear. This is not just the story of Petra, the forgotten kingdom of rock. In a land where no tree grew and no river flowed, they built a city from mountains, not to survive, but to be remembered. The desert does not forgive weakness for most. It is a graveyard, silent, endless, and merciless, but for a forgotten people, long before history remembered them. It was something else, a challenge, a canvas, an invitation 2,000 years ago. In what is now southern Jordan, a tribe called the Nabataeans stood where most men turned away, nomads, traders, outcasts. They had no king, no empire, no written promise of protection. But they had something stronger. Vision. While great civilizations built along rivers and coasts, the Nabataeans chose the most impossible terrain, a blazing canyon in the middle of nowhere. Why? Because they didn't want to follow empires. They wanted to outlast them. They didn't build Petra overnight. They carved it with hands blistered from heat and stone. No machines, no modern tools, just bare hands, iron will, and immortal ambition. They didn't construct buildings. They sculpted mountains. They shaped tombs, temples, theaters, and columns directly out of rose-colored cliffs. Why? Because ordinary cities fade, but mountains endure. If we must leave this world, they said, let the world never leave us. Petra wasn't just about defense. It wasn't just to hide from the sun or the sword. It was a declaration to the world. We are not here to survive. We are here to make history bleed with our name while other tribes wandered. Petra grew, water flowed through channels they designed, markets buzzed with gold, silk, incense, and spice, flowing from Arabia, China, India, Egypt. In the heart of the desert, a miracle bloomed, a thriving empire built without armies, only trade, trust, and tenacity. The Nabataeans didn't conquer with blades. They negotiated, networked, navigate. They read the desert like a map and turned it into a highway of wealth. Where others saw nothing, they saw everything. Walk through Petra's narrow entrance, the sick, and you'll feel it. The rock doesn't just rise around you. It breathes. It whispers stories in silence. It feels like you're walking through the lungs of history, and then you see it. Al-Kaznath Treasury, a temple carved into the cliff face to 40 meters tall, flawless in detail, glowing pink in the morning sun. It doesn't just say, we were here. It screams, we dared, we built, we believed. This is not the story of stone. It's the story of spirit. Petra wasn't made for tourists. It wasn't built for likes, clicks, or applause. It was built by people who believed in permanence, people who didn't wait to be given legacy. They chiseled it, cut it, led it into cliffs. They built for people they would never meet. They suffered for futures they would never see, and they created something that still stops hearts. 2,000 years later today, Petra stands quiet, its creators long gone, but what they left behind speaks to you, to me, to every soul looking at their life, wondering if it matters, because Petra wasn't built by giants. It was built by people who refused to live small, people like you. They were doubted, they were alone, they were forgotten, until they weren't. They did not rule by war, they ruled by wisdom, and they carved a civilization not in ink, but in stone. Petra was never meant to be just a city. It was a message, in architecture, in design. In silence, the Nabataeans didn't shout for attention. They whispered through genius. They weren't conquerors. They were creators, artists, engineers, philosophers of the stone, and for a moment in time, they weren't just surviving the desert, they mastered it by the 1st century BCE. Petra wasn't a remote outpost, it was the capital of an empire, and it wasn't small. Tens of thousands lived among its crimson walls. Traders from Persia, Egypt, Rome, and beyond passed through its gates. Camel caravans stretching for miles arrived daily, carrying silk, spices, myrrh, silver, and gold. They had wealth, they had water, they had a network that rivaled kings. But Petra's true magic? Its mind. The Nabataeans achieved something that stunned even their enemies. They made the desert bloom. They didn't just collect water. They engineered it, built cisterns, aqueducts, and hidden reservoirs into the canyon walls, stored rain from flash floods like liquid gold, made gardens grow where no roots belonged. They understood geology, hydrodynamics, astronomy, and they left no manual their tools. Stone, sky, patience their reward. A city that thrived in a place most called dead. In Petra, you didn't just walk past homes and halls. You walked past belief systems carved into walls, tombs that stretched to the heavens, theaters that held thousands, temples built to worship not just gods, but principles. Even death was made beautiful. Tombs weren't hidden, they were the crown jewels, because to the Nabataeans, death wasn't the end, was the continuation of legacy. But even stone fades as the Roman Empire expanded. Petra slowly bent under its weight. By 106 AD, it was annexed by Rome. The city still flourished, but the center of power had shifted. Trade routes changed. The sea became more valuable than the desert. Petra's relevance started to shrink. Then came the Vang. Earthquakes violent, relentless. Cracks opened, walls crumbled, water systems failed. By the 6th century, Petra had become a ghost, not in memory, but in presence. The city still stood, but the people were gone. The laughter faded, the markets fell silent, and the desert returned. Not many civilizations die quietly, but Petra did. No great war, no legendary fire, just time and dust. Yet, what makes Petra different is this: it didn't resist being forgotten. It simply waited. Stone doesn't panic, mountains don't beg for remembrance. They stand, they endure, and in Petra, every empty tomb still whispers, "We were here, and if you listen, we still are." Petra didn't vanish, it watched. The footsteps vanished. The markets went quiet. The voices, the laughter, the prayers, all dissolved into the desert wind. Petra, once a city alive with trade, song, and ambition, was now nothing more than a shadow carved in stone. But even in silence, Petra refused to disappear. As centuries passed, Petra was erased from maps, from records, from history books. Even mighty empires forgot the jewel of the desert they once tried to control, and yet the city still stood. Its pillars still tall, its tombs still carved, its message still intact, even if no one was left to hear it. World turned away, but Petra didn't move. It stood there in the silence, waiting. Not everyone forgot. The Bedouin tribes, desert nomads who knew the secrets of the land, remembered Petra, but they didn't speak of it or them. Petra wasn't a tourist spot, it wasn't a ruin, it was sacred, a place of mystery, a place of spirits, a place too powerful to be disturbed. They called it names like the Ghost City or the Place of the Spirits, and in a way, they were right, because Petra was no longer a city. It was a memory, one that had taken on a soul of its own. The Bedouins camped nearby. They knew its walls. They walked its canyons, but they kept Petra hidden, protected, veiled, and so, for nearly 1,200 years, The world forgot Petra, but Petra never forgot the world. Stone doesn't need to shout it indoors, and that's what Petra did, day after day, century after century, standing tall through storms, earthquakes, and silence, even as dust covered its roads and vines grew over its gates. Petra remained whole. You may forget me, it seemed to say, but I remember who I am. Every building, every carving, every tomb chiseled by hands now lost to time still stood, untouched, because Petra wasn't just built with stone. It was built with belief. The world had moved on, building new cities, writing new histories, but Petra waited not for fame, not for glory, but for someone brave enough to walk through the desert and listen, not just to see, but to understand. Because Petra wasn't a place you stumbled upon, it was a place you had to be ready for. The greatest things in life are not loud, they are not obvious, they are not easy to find, but when you discover them, they change you. Petra was not lost, it was simply waiting for someone worthy enough to remember what the world had forgotten. This is not just about a city, this is about you, you see. Petra was never meant to be just a place, it was meant to be a message hidden in stone, in silence, in centuries of dust, waiting for the ones brave enough to look, because Petra is proof of something we forget in the noise of modern life. Greatness doesn't come from ease, it comes from endurance. The Nabataeans are gone, the traders are gone, even the explorer who rediscovered Petra is long forgotten by most, but Petra remains. Why? Because they didn't build for applause. They built for legacy. They didn't ask, "What can I get?" They asked, "What can I leave?" And that question, that mindset is everything. Think about your life right now. Are you waiting for permission? Are you building something that will last, or just survive today? Are you living small, or carving something permanent into the world? Because here's the truth. Most people live like the desert, dry, silent, empty, but the ones who believe, the ones who dare, they turn that desert into a kingdom. Just like Petra, you might feel like nobody sees you, like your work doesn't matter, like your struggle is invisible, but remember this. Petra vanished for over 1,000 years, and still it came back, not by force, but by the power of its existence. If what you're building is real, if your dream is carved deep enough, if your discipline runs into the bedrock of your soul, you will not be forgotten, not by the world, not by time, not by those whose lives you will touch, even long after you're gone. Asterisk. You are not here to be loud, you are here to be undeniable. You are not here to blend in, you are here to outlast. Asterisk. Let the world underestimate you, let them say you're gone, let them call your dream a ruin. Just keep building. The Nabataeans didn't know Petra would be rediscovered. They didn't build it for YouTube, or fame, or followers. They just built it because they believed. Then that belief still stands, still inspires, still teaches. Asterisk. If a city buried in stone can come back, so can you. Asterisk. Build your Petra, carve your name, refuse to be forgotten.